So recently, we've had a couple very unique Tengu plant tournaments popping up on our Discord. And the first one we had was Tengu Rumble, which is a multi-day event. You got 72 hours to play out your matches. And this one wrapped up very recently, right before jumping into this weekend, where we had a monthly tournament, Tengu Plant Takeover. And that tournament I streamed on my YouTube if you want to catch that stream. But yeah, so I wanted to do a breakdown talking about the different decks we saw. We saw some really interesting lists in these tournaments, which I think is super cool. We're seeing a lot of innovation in the format still to this day, seeing brand new decks we've never seen before top. And so let's get right into those. Let's talk about the metagame breakdown for Tengu Rumble 7. So we had 3 Tengu plants, 3 Machina variants, which is really interesting. Like, people kind of tampering with this now. I do think Machina can be really strong. It's just kind of a weird deck to build around in the format, but there's definitely some good builds out there. 2 Hero Beat, 2 Scraps, 2 Chaos variants, 1 Fabled Hero, 1 Highlander. I don't know what that means. And then we had a few others. 1 X-Saber, 1 Karkuri, 1 Lightsworn, 1 Dragooni, 1 Agent, 1 Six Samurai, 1 TG, 1 Jurak, 1 Watt, 1 Unicorn Control, 1 Remove Brainwashing, 1 Archfiend Nordics. So a lot of different spice being tested up in here, which is pretty interesting. But we can go ahead, jump over, and look at the 4th place deck, and we have Leigh Murphy, who was playing Highlander Tengu plants, which the idea behind this is a lot of times when people play Tengu plants, people who lose against it will complain because they lost to a one-of, because there's a lot of one-ofs in this deck, you know, like Monster Reborn, Mind Control, stuff like that. And so Leigh Murphy decided to play Tengu plants with, you know, the 3 Tengu 3 tour guide, but then every other card in the deck is a one of, including side deck, which I found really, really funny. So yeah, this was the deck, but I would call this cheating because, as you can see, we have Maxi and Valor at ratio of 2. They're in the side, and you know, that's a no-no. You know, if you're gonna be Highlander, you gotta commit. But it is kind of funny that he did manage to get 4th place with this, although it's nothing crazy. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the deck. Majority of the deck is one-ofs as is, and so you really do only need these and then that. Like, it's just a little troll if you have like 1 warning and stuff, but you know, you could still make it work, reasonably speaking, especially in, like, I think this tournament was a little bit smaller than what we normally have, but you know, it's pretty funny though. So good on Leigh Murphy. Now, this next deck, I know it's going to upset some of you viewers, but like, I really did want to like fill out this deck. This was Dark Signer's Tengu Plant deck he got 3rd with, and you know, you probably can't see it all that well, but at the end of the day, it's yet another just kind of standard Tengu Plant list. You got 3 Thunder King, 3 Tengu, 3 Tour Guide, a Sangan, and then BLS, Gores, Caius, Debris, Lonefire, Dandy, Spore, Glow Up, and then 2 Maxi, 2 Valor. And then it's just, you know, very standard. The only thing where it changes, like we even have the 2 Econ, it changes a bit where we're seeing like a Mirror Force and a Deep Prison splashed in. Like I said, the Billy Break plants didn't run these cards, and so like it's kind of smart to just splash these in if you want to like try to play Tengu plants in a tournament. Splash them in weird ratios, stuff like that, to throw your opponent off. That's what Dark Signer did, and it seemed to work out. But yeah, like I said, I just didn't want to build this whole deck on my dueling book just for this video. This was the only one that didn't work out. His download link was removed or something like that. I don't know what happened. So this is the screenshot. I'm sorry, it's ugly, but you know, like I said, standard Tengu plants, nothing you guys haven't seen before. So now we're going to move on to 2nd place, and we have Janky back at it again. I don't know if I covered this deck on my channel before, but this is a deck that Janky topped with called Unicorn Control, and it operates around, you know, using Kushana with like Tour Guide, and then kind of plays towards a Chaos Engine. It's honestly a really cool deck. It's weird because it looks so simple, but it works so well. And then the highlight of the deck, the all-star that everyone likes, is Dark Bug. When this card is normal summon, select and special summon 1 level 3 tuner monster from your graveyard, the effects of that monster is negated. So you can use Dark Bug to bring back Fabled Kushano, and then that right there is going to be a Fabled Unicorn. So you get a free synchro right there into Fabled Unicorn. So using that with like the likes of Reckless Greed and even like discard cards, you can kind of like manipulate your hand to, you know, kind of stop your opponent from being able to resolve effects, while simultaneously using the Chaos package, which this is really cool because Unicorn is a level 4 and you have things like Tour Guide, you can also use Leviair to bring a banished Unicorn back, assuming it was synchro summoned successfully. So I think that's also a little neat thing. And then you also have access to Kushano, just like pitching Cat Sith just to, you know, bring Kushano back to the hand, but then that lets you pop a card in your opponent's field. So, and then this also doubles as just a level 1 light tuner. So pretty cool deck. Really sick to see this innovation. And honestly, Janky's been doing really well with this list, with this deck in general, in a lot of different tournaments, constantly trying to perfect it. So this is one that's popping up and is actually looking semi-relevant, I guess you could say. And what I like about it is it's using Fabled cards. I think everyone, or there's a lot of people that are huge fans of the Fabled archetype, but Fabled is really, really difficult to make work. And this is one where it kind of slows the pace down, so you don't have to worry about Max C as much, and instead you can just kind of play towards a slower, grindier game, which tends to work out a lot better in this format. But yeah, congrats to Janky, super cool list, and I even added it to the website. If you guys want to check it out, it's on my website, tcgrewind.com. We slapped the list up there. I felt like it was deserving, it was unique enough, so it is now on the website if you guys want to download it and try it yourself. And then moving on to first place, we had, I gotta look up their name, Silcha's Ruin. I'm not really sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but Silcha's Ruin was running a Chaos like Fabled hero list, and this managed to take first place. This is definitely pretty innovative. It's almost like playing kind of like a lot of decks you'd see in Edison, except we're using like Fabled Cerebral to, like, you know, pitch off of Kushano to maybe get an extender to get that level 2 tuner on the field with like Malicious. Really, really cool, unique list. I honestly wish I could have seen like replays or gameplay of this deck, because I'm not entirely sure like what all you're going for, but it really just seems like you're using Tour Guide to go into Kushano and then make a rank 3, and then after that you just kind of have free reign to like use these tuners and stuff like that, and it moves relatively fast because we have Destiny draw, stuff like that. But yeah, really, really cool deck to see. I like the Chaos package, again, because when you have like Diamond Dude and stuff like that, you have a hero, you can, you know, bring it back with Leviair when you banish it for Chaos stuff. One unique thing is it's running a hero package, but is just not opting for Miracle Fusion. Didn't want to go the water route, didn't want to go for Absolute Zero, because we're going Destiny heroes, not really elemental heroes aside from Stratos. So that's really unique. But yeah, crazy to see this deck just get first place. This was just kind of like a jumble of cards that happened to work out. And like I said, I wish I could speak on the playstyle of it. I don't really know. But it kind of looks to me like a Diva hero build for Tengu, except instead of Diva, we're running Cerebral, which I think makes sense because it's a light, something you can easily special summon through the likes of the Kushana, which is searchable via Tour Guide. So that's my guess on how it runs. It looks really cool. But yeah, congrats to Silcha's Ruin. I haven't seen this person in the Discord before. Like, I haven't seen them like top any events or anything like that, so this is like definitely the first I've seen of them, at least I think. Maybe they're on a different name, I don't know. But yeah, really cool deck. So now we'll move on to Tengu Plant Takeover 10, and this was actually a pretty decently sized tournament for the monthly. It was like 23 people, and we had 2 Chaos, 1 Anti, and 1 Control, like anti-meta, I believe. 2 Tengu Plant, 2 Jurak, 1 Jurak Hero list, which was actually a really cool deck that we saw get spotlighted on stream. And then 2 Scraps, 2 Agents, and then 13 others. So we had Crusher Control, Unicorn Control, Frog Monarch, TG Stun, 1 Watlock, 1 Saber, 1 Counter Fairy, 1 Car Curry, 1 Psychic, 1 Beast Synchro, 1 Hero Beat, 1 Dragoony, 1 Zombies. My favorite part about this is I see Psychic, I see Car Curry, and I see X Sabers. You know, we got some people playing my decks, you know, and those decks are really, really cool. We got to see Shinu Slot on the X Sabers, and it was his first time running it, but you know, he was putting up some dukes. You know, he was doing pretty well. He almost got to top 4, I believe. But yeah, we'll move on. We'll actually take a look at what top 4 was. So in 4th place, we had Halfar on Frog Monarchs. You know, this is his bread and butter. This is his go-to. And honestly, I thought this was his tournament to win, given the decks above him. I thought he had relatively decent and feasible matchups moving on, but he just barely managed to lose in game 3 of the tournament, which was, you know, pretty sad for him, but also, you know, pretty nice clean frog deck. You know, we're moving on. I think this is like a new addition to his build, running tour guide with the Sangan, and I kind of like that because people are going out of their way to try to banish the treeborn frogs, stuff like that. And just having access to Leviair to bring it back is really good. Plus, Sangan can search you the Treeborn, or it's just a good standalone monster. You know, if you don't have a play with via a Monarch, you can do this. Dark Dust Spirit looked insane in this tournament. Like, I swear, Dark Dust Spirit was so relevant in all of his matches. It was like an incredibly powerful card. And then I like this one spicy Battle Fader. We saw it get searched for via a Sangan and saved Halfar from losing a game, which was really cool. But yeah, congrats to Halfar getting 4th place. Very talented player, and like I said, I really like this list. I think it's really clean. I think he was going a bit spicy with the BLS. This does seem a bit bricky because he's only on the 3 Veiler, but at the same time, I can see it. You know, this is a blowout card. This card can just win you games, and people are definitely not expecting it in Monarchs. And also, they're probably using their warnings and stuff on the Caius and Ryza, so if you have a moment where a Veiler's engraved and a Caius is engraved, you got this, you know? All right, so next up we have Statistically Speaking. I don't know how to pronounce your guys' names, guys, but they were on Crusher Control. This is probably the spiciest list of the weekend. This deck looked weirdly really good. Now, I got to talk to Statistically Speaking after the tournament, kind of talked about their experience. They're actually relatively new to Tengu Plant format as a whole, and even, you know, like, this was kind of their first draft of the build. It ended up performing really, really well. Some of the cool combos we saw was like using Ultimate Offering during your opponent's battle phase to set a tomato, which would then set up the Crusher. So then on the next turn, you just summon any other dark monster, and it's going to pop pop something on your opponent's field and like set you up for plays. This is a card that was really cool. Dark Scorpion, Mene the Thorn. I honestly haven't even seen this card before, but its effect is when this card inflicts damage to your opponent, you can activate one of these effects. Add 1 Dark Scorpion card from your deck to your hand. Target 1 Dark Scorpion card in your graveyard as that targets your hand. So this is a really cool card because you can effectively resource loop for +1s, and then in conjunction with Ultimate Offering, you can do something like where you swing in and either search one or get one from the grave, and then you can use Ultimate Offering to pay 500 and then make a rank 4, which I thought was like pretty cool. But yeah, after talking to Statistically Speaking, they're saying that they don't really feel like this list is optimized. On stream, we saw this deck play a couple times because it was having like a crazy run, as you guys can tell, making it all the way to 3rd place. And we kind of discussed about how he desperately needed Veilers and probably add a few things in the extra deck. Like, obviously, he said that he like just didn't know what to put in, so he had like Grenosaurus and some weird stuff. I think he's gonna clean up the list a bit, but either way, it basically shows that this concept does or can work, which is really cool because this thing was beating meta decks, guys. Like, this is no joke. And honestly, the biggest thing that was hurting it the most was just no Veiler, in my opinion. Like, I saw him kind of get blown out by Caius or Trishula a lot because he only had the 2 warnings to stop it, and he didn't even have the Veilers in the side deck. So, I put this on the website, but me and him were talking about maybe adjusting it a little bit so we could have a better list for you guys to download and try. But even then, this deck on paper is very, very smart. Like, there's a lot of really cool attributes to it. The fact that you can just like use Crusher to pop a card on the normal summon of a tour guide. These cards are getting banished and then you can bring them back. And yeah, there's just so much cool little plays you get to do with this deck. He's on Shrink because Shrink will allow him to clear over things like Thunder King with like Dark Scorpion, and also, you know, keep his guys alive. Like, if he's going against a scrap, he mentioned that going against like something like Scrap Dragon or something, you could Shrink it for a Mystic Tomato to crash, which is pretty strong. But yeah, pretty interesting card choice here. But I do really, really like this deck. I'm definitely excited to kind of tamper with this myself. He also mentioned that Cliff the Trap Remover was just not worth it at all, and he probably would cut this card moving forward. So there's definitely some optimization to be made to the list, but like I said, for how unoptimized this list was, getting all the way to 3rd place and, you know, a relatively like bigger sized tournaments that we've had for our monthly, it's an impressive run. And it might mean that there are some relatively viable builds with Genex Ally Crusher. Like, I mean, the Ultimate Offering really does make a difference. Like, it gets a lot of ground where you can just like summon Crusher, pay 500, normal a tour guide, then you get to pop a card, make an Exceed. It's really crazy, especially because on the summon of the tour guide, you're gonna pop before you summon the Sangan. So like, that's really sick. But yeah, super cool, innovative deck. I was really stoked to see it be played in tournament, and I mean, I'm sure myself and everyone had a blast watching this deck play. We were all rooting for it to make it all the way to top 2, but just barely was short of making it, and ended up in 3rd place, but still really cool deck. So now we are going to move on to 2nd place, and we have Psychon, who is on Zombies, and this is a more back row oriented list, it looks like, going for, you know, just the triple goblin zombie and then like one of everything else alongside. We're doing like, you know, a bunch of trap cards and even going for duality, so playing a slower game. This list performed honestly pretty well. We're even going for like skill drain in the side, which is super crazy to me. Genex Ally Decisive Armor in the side, which I feel like that's like a little bizarre, but yeah, triple Caius, just going for that slow grind game of you get to tribute a goblin zombie, banish something, and it's high value, right? So my personal takes on the list is I'm not a fan of Book of Life. I swear, I open this card anytime I play zombies. I open it, I brick on it. I hate this card. I feel like it can just sit in your hand forever. He also is on 1 Veiler 2 Maxi, which I find kind of interesting. Like like I said, I'm always pro more Veiler than Maxi because this card is just, you know, situationally good, where this is like almost always good, especially in a deck like Zombies where you have things you want to sit in grave and you don't want to get them banished by the likes of Trishula. 1 Veiler feels super unsafe to me. Just super heavy trap build. I will say I do kind of like the Necro approach a bit better, where if you're gonna go for like heavy like responses and back row, then I would maybe do like, instead of like bottomless, maybe do like lances or like enemy controllers, stuff like that, just because I'm not really a fan of some of these cards. But like I said, it's hard for me to say much because it did make 2nd place and it did look pretty good at doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like it performed pretty impressively well. And it just barely was unable to claim the 1st place slot, which I guess we can move on to. So we'll move on to 1st place, and this was Pill Lord, and Pill Lord was on some spice. I don't know what you want to call this deck. It was labeled as Chaos Control, which is basically just a kind of like a Chaos Stun deck with a very low monster count and then just heavy traps. And how we saw this deck play out on stream was normal summon Thunder King and then use triple lands, Call the Haunted, Dark Bribes, and just protect it. And I swear it was kind of crazy how well this worked out for him. Like that Thunder King kind of lasted forever, which is also why you could see why like a deck like Zombies would struggle, because Thunder King is just killing goblin zombies, and if you can't out the Thunder King because they have 5 back row behind it, it's really tough. This list was really cool. Like the Thunder Kings would get banished by a D prison and then tour guides bringing it back, and there's just so much threat. This Fossil Dyna put in a lot of work in a lot of the matchups. But yeah, just a very anti-meta-esque chaos build. I don't even think in any of the games on stream I saw him summon either of these 2 monsters. It was literally just Thunder King beatdown or Fossil Dyna beatdown with a bunch of back row to support it. So I personally, I don't know how I feel about this list. It performed really well, but I also feel like this is one of those decks where like, if you don't get the exact right back row to protect your monsters, you can just fall right over. You know, like any quantity of, any multiple of like quantities of some of these cards could just like ruin you. Like if you open like double bribe, double call or something like that, you know, you're just gonna have a bad time. I know that's kind of like an anomaly, but still, I feel like this deck could brick. It doesn't really have a lot that can add to its consistency outside of the duality, and I'm just not sure. Like I just definitely see a world where you just don't see a monster and you're drawing a ton of back row, and you know, I don't know how well that would work out. In the side, he was opting for a single King Tiger Wangu. This card's really good, and then even more copies of Fossil Dyna, Trap Eater for that spicy Decree Munch. You know, in the event that he runs into Decree, which is kind of funny. But yeah, we even got the Super Poly package for the Absolute Zero and the Shining, and even Cyber Twin Dragon, if that ever comes up, which is pretty interesting. But, which, I mean, I guess it could if your opponent puts a Cyber Dragon on board and you do as well, but I don't know, that sounds kind of interesting. But yeah, really interesting deck. The deck did look insanely strong on tournament day, but sometimes that's just how tournaments go, you know? Sometimes you just, you got good runs with them. Like I said, I don't know how strong this deck would be, or like what you would even consider it, because it's really just felt like Thunder King deck. Like, I just didn't see his opponents ever out the Thunder Kings all that well. So I'd be interested to see this deck get kind of ran back and see how well it like performs at it consistently, because it just looked like it did exactly what it was intended to do during the tournament. I'm not sure if that would happen all the time. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this deck. I'm really not sure how I feel about it. It did catch the dub, so you got to give it respect. It went all the way through winners, went undefeated on the day, so that is pretty impressive. But yeah, to me, I was just like impressed at how well it went. Like, I was kind of losing my mind when I'd see like Thunder King, you'd see him Dark Hole, he'd like Lance, and then they'd like, I don't know, do something else. They see Dark Bribe, you know. It was just, you just see Chain stacking to try to protect the Thunder King, and it just always ended in his favor, which I thought was absolutely insane. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this deck. But other than that, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. So real quick, we're going to give a quick shout out to my patrons. So we have Slap God, Beast Eyes, My Dude, Photo Shooty, Brian Ford, and Sven Olbrehen. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'm really curious what you guys know about, or what you guys think about these decks. Yeah, I'd just be really interested to know how you guys feel about them, because there's some real spicy lists in here. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and have a great time dueling today.